I'm Jessica Lloyd-Smith and I run Modern ArtBuyer. I'm here today with Trudy Montgomery, who's one of our represented artists. Trudy has lived and painted in California and India and is now based just outside Bath. Her work can be seen on our website as well as at hospitality and corporate businesses throughout the UK. And I brought Trudy along today so that we can get a good insight into her art practice. Trudy, tell me about your style of work. What's the thought process behind it?
Well, in many ways I'm trying to not think. So my paintings really are less about ideas but more about evoking a state of being or a state of feeling that comes through in kind of an intuitive selection of colour to really, although I might start with compositions that, you know, in my sketchbook I do outlines and I have working on various compositional ideas. Really, once I transfer that to the canvas, I find that the gesture and the balance of colour is starting to take over. Mm-hmm. So what that really means is that I have to kind of abandon my self, my thought process, if you like, to allowing, you know, kind of the heart to come through and to allow that to lead the process.
So how do you know when a piece is finished?
Yeah, really it's when it stops bothering me, and that might be, you know, quite obvious towards the end. There are some paintings where, you know, kind of hallelujah, it's a sort of, right, stop, put the brush down, don't do anything more to it. It's done, the balance, the harmony, it's all working together. But then there are others where you really do get stopped, or you think it's finished and you leave it, and I sort of put it aside, a bit like curing, you know, meat or something, I suppose. You kind of leave it and I might come back to it, and then I can suddenly see, that's what's wrong with it. Because don't forget, I'm changing all the time. The person who started the painting isn't necessarily the person who finished the painting, and you know, we all change, and suddenly I can see something new that allows me, you know, a new way forward with the painting. And I might keep working on it, but really once it really stops bothering me, I'll go, yes, it's ready to kind of go out into the world.
So when a piece is finished, you have to give it a title. How do you decide on the titles?
The titles, you know, sometimes they just come towards the end of the painting, and it just sort of lands in my head that that's what it should be. But they really are reflective of a state of being or a feeling, really, which is what I might not identify that until the end of the painting. So I'm trying to, with the titles, kind of give people a bit of a hook, I suppose, because I know a lot of people find abstract art sometimes difficult to relate to. But really, I mean, it's just a genuine expression of what is that painting been about for me.
What are your key influences?
I think my experience of travel so much is a big influence, and experiencing different places in the world. In terms of actual artists that have inspired me, I mean, the British artist Howard Hodgkin actually lived very close to where I was brought up, and his colour is just so vibrant, and you know, he paints on the frames, and you know, there's just kind of no limits to where he's gone with it. I also very much appreciate Sandra Blow's work, who's a St Ives artist, whose construction and the tension that she created on the canvas I found very interesting. And then in the US, where I lived for so many years, the New York School, Helen Frankenthaler, kind of colour field artists, but even, you know, Robert Motherwell and the gestures of Franz Klein, and of course Diebenkorn with his Ocean Park series, or the Berkeley series, where I lived in both San Francisco and LA. So all of that kind of filters in and distills down through somebody, and you know, that's, I suppose, one's art is always the reflection of what you've learned and what you've seen and where you've been and who you are.
So you've recently delved into printmaking. Tell me about that.
Yes, printmaking has been a departure from obviously working in oil and acrylic on canvas. You're working with a very small zinc or copper plate, and you're, for etchings anyway, you're using acid to bite into the plate, which then the ink is held in, and you run that through the press. It's a very controlled process. It's you can't really miss out a step. There's no cheating, otherwise the result is no good. But I found an excellent print master that I've been working with locally, and she has helped me to translate my gesture and the colour onto printmaking. And so I've been able to kind of paint directly onto the plate and really make my prints sort of still have that feeling of painterliness. The discipline of working at a small scale means that you kind of get a better overview in many ways. Composition is definitely, I would say, improved. I've actually used some collage in some of the techniques, which has been, the bigger the painting, the kind of almost the more simple your composition wants to be. And so printmaking at a very small scale has actually, funnily enough, allowed me to do that at a large scale. So that's been a really interesting result.
So if you could give one piece of advice to collectors, what would that be?
Well, for original paintings and actually for hand-pulled prints as well, you're really getting the artist's DNA, if you like, in the piece itself. So having a unique piece that you're capturing a little bit of the artist. So I think that's interesting and different to obviously photography. And as a collector, I think really look with your eyes, but also be aware of what you're feeling, especially when you're looking at abstract art. Your mind may be scrambled because you don't understand what you're looking at, but you have so many other senses, so allow those to come forward and buy on instinct, really.